The law of sines. This is found on your reference sheet, and it's basically a proportion. A over sine A equals B over sine B equals C over sine C. And of course, all of the numerators are side lengths. All of the denominators are sines of the vertices, or the angles rather. So make sure you draw yourself a triangle like this, and you label the angles with uppercase A, B, C, and the sides with lowercase a, b, c. Okay, so we can do a lot of things with these proportions. Obviously, it's always a cross. So, so in this case, it's it's A over sine A equals B over sine B, right? Over here, it's A over sine A equals C over sine C. And finally, over here, the last possibility is B over sine B. Use a different color. B over sine B equals C over sine C. Okay? Let's take a look at an example. I do number one. In triangle ABC, measure of angle A is 32, side A is 12, and side B is 10. First thing you want to do is draw yourself triangle ABC and label everything that they give you. They want you to find the measures of the missing angles and side of ABC. All right, this seems like a lot to do, so we're going to attack one at a time. First thing we want to do is just look at this triangle and determine what proportion we're going to set up. Okay, so obviously we have an angle for A and a side for A. This is a no-brainer. We're definitely going to be using this ratio, and we want to set that up to another ratio. So as you can see, we have 10 to work with, so I'm going to set that up with side B over sine of angle B. Okay, this is what we'll have to figure out. So let's set up this ratio. And as you can see, I set up 12 over sine 32 equals 10 over sine B. Once again, we don't know what B is yet. Okay, but once we set up this proportion, we cross multiply and just solve. So we cross multiply, divide both sides by 12, and we end up with sine of B equals 0.4414. Right, that's what I got over here when I put that in the calculator. Now the last step, since we want to find out what angle B is, we must do the inverse sine of both sides. Okay, and the inverse sine of both sides, I'm going to use the inverse sine function on the calculator, and I'm going to use second answer, and I end up with 26.2. So there we go. 26.2 is angle B. 26.2. Now, how do you suppose we can find angle C if we know angle B and angle A? Well, if you remember your geometry, the sum of the interior angles of a triangle is 180. So basically, we're going to do 180 minus 32 plus 26.2, and that gives us 121.8. So now we have another missing piece. So we found B, now we found C. This is 121.8. Okay, the last thing to do is to find side C. And we have many options here. And I went ahead and chose pretty much the first ratio was the same. That was given. And instead of 10 over sine B, we already know that. We're going to use C over sine C. So C over 121.8. Once you get this set up, it's pretty easy from here. You just solve algebraically. And we end up with 12 sine 121.8 all divided by sine 32. Plug that in the calculator. and we end up with 19.2. So side C is 19.2. Okay, number 2, this one's for you to do. Triangle FUN. Yes, this is fun. F is 4. Angle F is 26 degrees, and measure of angle N is 67 degrees. Find the value of N, this side over here, to the nearest integer. Well, we know that this will be one of our ratios, and this must be our other ratio. So let's set this up. 4 over sine 26 equals N over sine 67. Cross multiply, solve algebraically, N equals 8.4. Number 3. So here we have a diagram. There's a fire right here. There's fire station A, there's fire station B. We want to find out the distance from station A to the fire and the distance from station B to the fire. Okay, so we need to find this value and this value. So we're going to use a little bit of geometry here. We know if this is 47 degrees and this is 90, then that means this must be the complement of 47, which is 43 degrees. We also know that this is a right angle, and if this is 15 degrees, then 90 plus 15 is 105. Finally, since we know 43 degrees, 105 degrees, then to find this last angle here, we just subtract that all from 180. So what I did was I basically redrew this diagram into essentially all we need, which is the triangle. So this is 100, this is 43, 105 degrees, and 32 degrees. And I labeled our two unknowns with x and y. This is what we're trying to figure out. So the first part, we were going to find x, and the second part, we're going to find y. So to find x, let's go ahead and set up our proportion. So the first ratio, if you look through here, the only one that we really can set up is 132 degrees because they are opposite each other. So we know that the first is going to be 100 over 32 degrees. And let's go ahead and solve x first. So there we go. We're going to set that up just like this, cross multiply, solve for x. And there we have it. Calculator does the tough part for us. And the distance from the fire to fire station A is 182.3 miles. Now we're going to find y. To find y, we're going to use the same ratio up here, except this time we want to find out what y is. So we're going to set up y over sine 43 degrees. Same thing as up here, we want to cross multiply, use the calculator to do the math, and the distance from the fire to station B is 128.7 miles. Sage and scribe number 1, we want to find out what the value of x is. This is pretty simple and straightforward, so we just set up our proportion. Once again, this is our ratio, and this is another ratio. So we cross multiply, plug it in the calculator, and we have x is 30 miles. That's the distance from S to A. And the last one here, sage and scribe number 2. Here we have, now this one just it involves one extra step. Since we know this is 30 degrees and this is 50 degrees, then by the interior angle sum principle, we know this is 100 degrees. So that way we can set up our ratio 13 over sine 100 equals c over sine 50 degrees. And that's exactly what I did here. And the value of c is 10.1, so the answer is 2. There you go. Good luck to you. That's the law of sines.